Happy Divorce Day, everybody. That's right. The first Monday after the new year is the most common day that people file or start inquiries to file for divorce. So many reasons you can imagine between starting the new year right, finances, or just being disappointed with that person over the holidays. So I talk about it, but I will say this on this podcast episode, we dive deep into divorce, and the one piece of advice I have for all of you is marry someone you can picture yourself divorced to. Cawfee Talk. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Cawfee Talk with Cannistraci. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. I hope you are rested from the holiday celebrations. What I want to say to you first and foremost, to those who it applies for, Happy Divorce Day. Happy Divorce Day, everybody. Thank you for joining the podcast today. Make sure you check out my website, tarotjokes.com. It lists all my shows, has all the ticket links, my Cawfee Talk mugs, and my merch. I wanted to start the podcast today because today is the first Monday after the new year. And that is the day that the most increases in divorces, the process for divorce, I should say, starts. So it's today. And I kind of laughed when I heard that. And it makes sense for so many reasons, but then for so many other reasons that I don't even think of. First of all, let me say this. Marriage is the hardest thing I think that I will ever do in my life. I am basically building a comedy career from the ground up. Started at zero. Still struggling. And marriage is harder. And that I've only done for a few years. When I heard it and I heard the thing about divorce, listen, it's a word that I know couples avoid using or don't want to threaten with. Divorce was such a common word, or such a common trend, I should say, growing up in my family, that my aunt remembered a time when I was 2 years old in the bathtub and I'm playing with all my toys and, they're overseeing me, and my aunt said that I was playing with my toys, and I was like, oh, when I grow up and get a divorce at 2 years old, I was like, oh, when I do what everybody else does when I'm a big girl. And it's funny because when I think about it, I always avoided getting married. I didn't want to get married. It was never on my to-do list. Getting married was never a day I dreamed about. How girls picture their wedding and they're like, oh, this is how I always imagined it. I'm like, nope, no clue. So it was never a goal. And that could very much be because of how I grew up. My parents were divorced by the time I was 1. A lot of my family had been divorced. I even had grandparents, that is not common, that were separated. So, okay, 1, it's part of how I grew up. And then 2, I think I had a real fear of commitment. My biggest fear was just being married and living in a house. And just the idea of it was I used to go to therapy and be I'm bored out of my mind when I think of that. I don't want it. I don't want it for my life. It was a fear that I would be married and live in a house, which is not a bad thing. It's actually a beautiful thing. But I thought for some reason, or I had this mentality that it was, I was giving up on myself or my dreams if that's the life I lived. Just being very honest. And so divorce, I always say, I think I heard this and I live by this quote, marry someone you can see yourself divorced to. Because marriage is hard, but divorce could be ugly. And I will say this, regardless of the problems, people have in their marriages, if there could be an amicable split up, especially when children are involved. And of course, it's going to be hard. You can't take the emotion out of it, but people who are really cutthroat or come at you to take money or then don't support their children, whether it's the father or the mother in that case. that's, you gotta, the person, the character of the person you're marrying is the most important. I don't care what they look like, how much money they have. Looks and money go, okay? Character weighs a lot more in this situation than any of those things. So I kind of lived with the motto is I will marry a man I can see myself divorced to, somebody who's not gonna be ugly in a courtroom or with a mediator or come at me for money or things that aren't earned and I wouldn't do the same. I know I would feel so bad about it that I'd probably come with less than I came with. The amount of guilt that has to come with divorce, I'd imagine, is overwhelming, along with public failure. And I don't mean public failure because I'm on Instagram. I mean the people closest to you, account for being public about your divorce. So it's hard. So I was listening Venetia. I told Venetia about Divorce Day, and she's like, let's look up all the reasons. And I'm like, well, one is up there for certain. And it's like, the holidays are over, right? You don't want to upset people around the holidays, right? You got through them. Now get out, right? Now start the divorce. And the other thing I thought of was like, the podcast we had last week where I was like, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. You can do what you want on any day. But a lot of people do subscribe to starting the new year right, and maybe leaving your spouse is what's right for the new year. So those were two that I know made this list. Divorce Day. I love that it's called Divorce Day. Usually the first Monday after New Year's sees a spike in divorce inquiries due to various factors. The holidays often force couples to confront unresolved issues, leading to reflection and tough decisions. I will say this, as much as I love decorating my house for Christmas, for whatever reason, December is a very difficult month for me. I probably ask for a divorce every December, so I understand that point. I probably related to something in my childhood that I just don't know. But for whatever reason, December, I struggle. I think it could just probably be the end of the year. It doesn't even necessarily have to be my childhood. I think the end of the year it automatically makes you start to reflect on things and what you're not happy with. So that makes sense. The New Year's fresh start, which we talked about, is another common one. Many people wait until after the holidays to avoid disrupting family gatherings, that we said. And it said this one I was interested in, not interested, but it made me go, oh yeah, that makes sense. January is a convenient time for financial planning and aligning legal proceedings with the new tax year. So, okay. If we're going to be black and white about it. Holiday stress, financial strain, and unmet expectations can exacerbate cracks in a relationship 100%. Listen, I think people get divorced for financial reasons, and people stay married because they can't afford divorce. So I think finances come into a big part of all of this. And then spending extended time together over the holidays often highlights deeper issues for couples already struggling. If you had to spend time with your spouse during the pandemic and you were not happy in your marriage, Lord, I can't even imagine the spike in divorces after 2020, if people can even afford to get divorced because they weren't even working or getting laid off. But that said, I do want to wish any of you listening to this a happy Divorce Day if it's a decision you've made for the new year. I want to send you all the love in my heart, because regardless if it's a great new start or the best decision you're going to make for yourself, it's still going to be really hard. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that, or that you have to go through this at all. And I guess to kind of like co-sign on what I said last week, there's no right time to start, right? If you're unhappy, of course you want it to be the perfect circumstance. I don't know if there's ever a perfect circumstance to start making yourself happy. But if you can't get divorced or decide to get divorced, there are other things you can maybe do to start making yourself happier in your situation. And that can start at any time. So I am sending you love, love, love on Divorce Day. I hope that this podcast, if it I really hope it resonated with no one, to be honest. But of course, that's probably not going to be the case. So if it is resonating with you, again, sending love. If you know somebody that could use this podcast, this particular episode or any episode that I've shared with you, please share it with them. because I do think it's a topic that people need to feel. As normalized as divorce is, it's still, I know when I contemplate the idea myself, I go, oh my God, I feel so alone. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so this, and you're not. But it's definitely going to be hard, and I'm sending them love. So thank you for tuning in. Again, happy Divorce Day. Check out Coffee Talk mugs on tarajokes.com, along with my Bronx Barbie merch and all my shows. I love you guys. See you next week. Coffee Talk.